Hello everybody, today we're going to be talking about this, and this is my air conditioning unit. This is the one I have, so it's the Avalla air conditioning unit, and I have this one, which is the S-770. It is pretty big, as you can see, but for me, I think this is a really big asset for our house. In the UK, if you're not here, it is getting incredibly hot in the summers, I'll say that. It's getting increasingly hot every single year, and this year we've had a very long heat wave, and for us it was about 30 plus degrees, and I know for those of you in America and Australia that doesn't sound like a lot, but for us it is. It's incredibly humid. Our buildings are built to keep in heat, not let it out, and our buildings do not have air conditioning. You just won't find it in domestic buildings as a rule. So we bought this one because it's too hot for us, it's too hot for our animals, so this is what we got. This is the little handbook that comes with it. It isn't the best, to be honest. It's not 100% clear, which is a shame, but it is fairly simple to work out how to use it anyway, so it's not too much of a problem. This is the instructions for the window, which I'll show you in a moment, and these are terrible. So I actually had to look up a video on how to connect the window seal, but once it's done, and once you know how to do it, it is very straightforward. It's just a bit fiddly at first. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how to set this up. So when you first open the box, this is what you're going to get, and it's fairly tall. It's about 2 foot tall, but it's not massively intrusive. The only thing with it is that it does need draining. You can have two options, so you can either have it continuously draining, which is the version that I use, or you can have it just as it is, so it's set up, the pipe is out the window, and you leave it on and it collects internally. So I think it collects up to 800 milliliters of water inside it, and that is in both versions for the air conditioning and the dehumidifying. So once that is then full, you then have to empty it. So I'll show you how to do that. So on the back, and this is the back, you've got two ports. You've got this one, which is quite high, and this is the continuous drain, and then down at the bottom there, that is your final drain. So once you let the water collect, that is where you'll drain it from. I will show you how I drain this because it is very awkward. You can see where it is positioned. It's on the floor, so you can't then tip it into a cup or a container or anything like that. You have to take this off, and this is the window, so you have to remove this. This is the fan. Then have to unplug it. And if this is in the bathroom, it's not so much of a problem because you'll have hard floors. Very clearly, this is on carpet, so it's not so straightforward. You can put a mat or something underneath it, but then it bleeds into your carpet and you don't want a wet floor. So this is how I have to do it. So we've got a vase on the stairs, those two there, and I will just show you the process of emptying this drain. It's frustrating. And this air conditioning unit is heavy, so you want to be very careful when you're moving it, because if you're not careful, you could really quite seriously hurt yourself. So you have to get it right on the edge. I think, can you see that? Hopefully you can see. So you've got this right on the edge of the stair. You put your vase underneath it, and then you pull out this plug. And this hasn't got anything in it at the moment because it's not been running, but this is how the process of emptying it is. And then you kind of have to tip it backwards a little bit, just a touch, and then you might get a bit more water out of it. And then you can close the port and then put it back to where you usually use it. So I'll do that, and then I'll show you the continuous port. As I said, this here is a continuous port, and you're provided with a tube. It's not super long, but it's not super short either. It's probably, I don't know, 4 foot long. And what you do with this is it's got two ends. One end with a long flat bit, and then the other end with a not so long flat bit. I can't remember which way it's supposed to go in. I don't think it makes any difference. But literally just remove it and plug it in. It's that way. The other way doesn't work. So you've pushed this in, and then you need this to drain somewhere. You can't put the end of this pipe above this, because if it's above, the water will go in and it will get stuck in the bottom of the pipe. Or if it's all the way up, the water will just back up into this. It has to be, this has to be lower than this port. As I've said, I'm on carpet and I can't put it in a bathroom. It just wouldn't work like that for plugs and just access and for the function that we need it to complete. So the way we've managed it is literally putting it in a vase on the stairs. Now this is not the most ideal situation in the world. You don't want a glass vase sat on your stairs for health and safety purposes, but also if you're walking up and down the stairs, do you really want to be tripping over a pipe? No, but the house is hot and this is what has to be done. So that's that. It works for us. We're in a household with adults and cats and dogs. So the cats aren't fussed and the dogs don't come upstairs. So it's not a problem for us. It works for us. As I said, we're an adult only household. If we had little children or just children in general, you couldn't do this unless the children weren't able to come upstairs, obviously. So that is the draining pipe. And then the way it actually works for the air coming in or in and out of the machine, i.e. the hot air that is sucked out of your house going out of the window, is connected via this big pipe. This one. So when you get your air conditioning unit, it will come and it will all be pushed together like this. So it's all tightly and nicely packed. You then have to unravel it and put it out of your window. So this is the setup that I've got. And it goes out of the window there. And the way that you have to, I don't want to show you too much of the outside obviously, just because I've got neighbours, but the way you then have to connect this up is on your windowsill, you've got Velcro. And this mesh also has Velcro on it. So you have to put a strip of Velcro all the way around your window, on both sides. So on your inside of your windowsill here, and then on the actual window itself where it opens up. You then have to put it together, so you just connect the fabric to the Velcro, undo the zips, and then put this on and put it through the gap, close the gap, and then it's sort of like an airtight seal. It's not perfect, but it does what it needs to do and it functions. And so once that is all done, so you've got your hose in a container of some description. In an ideal world, you'd have it in a bathroom, so, or somewhere with a drain, so you could immediately just drain the water out of the machine into a drain. I don't have that, so this is the setup that we've got. So to turn it on, you've got this kind of interface on the front here, and the on button is there. So it's not quiet, but it's not super loud either. My cats don't mind it too much. It's Jerry over there, but the kittens don't like it too much. So on here you've got different modes. So you can get, this means it's cooling down, so this is the air conditioning section, and this is the fan. So you can change the fan speeds, and you can also change the mode. So I don't actually know how to do that on here. Ah, there. So this here is switching it into the dehumidifying mode. So you've got, I think that's fan, cooling, and dehumidifying. And you can change the setting that you want, so if it's like 55%, or if you want to go down to 45%, 40%, you can just change it around like that. and I think it's really useful, and it also does come with a little remote that you can use. So again, I find that quite useful. This here, you can see the inside bits, so these bits aren't moving, and that is because the fan, the swing aspect isn't on at the moment. So if you turn that on, you can see they're now starting to move. So you can make it oscillate if that is what you'd prefer. You can turn these up and move them down depending on where you want this. And overall, I think it is a pretty good piece of equipment. As I said, it is pretty loud, so if you want it in your bedroom, that is something for you to consider. But we keep ours in the corridor just for ease and the fact that it cools down the entire house. Well, the upstairs in any case. As I said, it is pretty big, and because of where we have positioned it, it really does cool down the upstairs of the building. And our upstairs is incredibly humid and incredibly hot, especially in the heat waves. So I think the inconvenience of having the pipe is more important than, or is less of a concern than it is to have the house as hot as it is. You don't need, you don't need the pipe, as I've said. You can just run it without that, and that does work as well. That's not a problem. But depending on just how hot or how humid your house is, you may have to empty it more frequently. I found that I have to empty it quite a lot, but that could just be because it was just so horribly humid in the house. It was sucking out a lot of liquid from the air. I know of someone that's got a very, very similar machine. It's not as big as this one, and their house is just a touch smaller than ours, and they said that they run theirs a lot and they hardly ever have to run it, and when they empty it, hardly any liquid comes out. So that is quite a different experience of the equipment compared to mine. But as I've said, there are lots of different variables that you need to think about when you're getting it. Size of your house, how effective is it, how much rating it is, I suppose. So you get different levels of, the machines are made so that they cool down a certain area. So you might have 12,000 units, or you might have 10,000. I didn't explain that very well, I'm sorry. But so there are loads of different variables that come when you're thinking of what machine to get, and this is the best one for us. And as I said, it's very hot and humid in the UK, and we don't have air conditioning built into our houses. That is very expensive to get put in as well, and this has been almost a lifesaver for us. One of my cats is 18 years old, and he was suffering a lot in the heat, and we were really worried about him because he didn't look very well when it was so hot. And when we have this on, he was actually sleeping in front of the air conditioning unit, so he clearly wasn't disturbed by the noise, and the air on him didn't bother him. So it's okay for some cats, just as a gauge on how loud it can be, because we all know that cats can be a bit skittish. So overall, I think this is great. I use it a lot, especially when it's hot, and even sometimes when it just feels really sticky or just humid in the house, and we put this on, and it does make a big difference for us. I would recommend it, but just be mindful that there are issues in terms of emptying it, or how long you want to use it for, say. And I think if you have it on all day for, I think, 8 hours or something, hey Luna, then it can be, I think, £2 a day to run it, which is pretty expensive. But then we have very expensive electricity in this country, which is a shame, but it is what it is. We can't really do anything about that. So yeah, it is a little bit expensive, but I think it's worth it personally. So if you've got any questions about anything that I've covered or that you would like to know about, then please let me know down in the comments. One thing I didn't mention is that it also comes with this, which is another window connector. So if you've got windows that open up and down, then you can use this. The output goes through this gap here, and then that's how that connects up. And it's also got a timer function, so you can tell it to turn on and turn off at certain points as well. I haven't used it, so I can't talk much about that. But yeah, if you've got any questions about it, please do let me know down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye guys.